Once upon a time, there was a girl named Inkim. Her name meant mine, and truly, she believed that the world was hers. She was the kind of girl that Lagos campus boys fought over, fair-skinned, curvy in all the right places, with a waist that seemed to command attention when she walked through the halls of her university. Even her lecturers smiled longer and tighter than necessary. She always had her nails done, wigs laid, and her phone buzzing with alerts from men who called her baby but never asked her about her dreams. She came from a decent home in Asaba, Delta State. Her father was a retired teacher and her mother sold fabric in the local market under the sun. They worked hard to send Inkim to the university, but Lagos had a way of washing the village off people and replacing it with pride. She hardly picked her mother's call nor called them back. One afternoon, her mother managed to get her on the phone. "Inkim, how are you doing, my daughter? Are you still reading your books? Please remember why you are in school, oh. Don't allow that Lagos to distract you." Inkim rolled her eyes as she smiled. "Yes, mommy, I'm reading. Everything is fine." After the call, she muttered under her breath, "This woman self, always sounding like one village prophetess." She tossed her phone to her bed, adjusted her wig in front of the mirror, and picked up her small black purse. She was going to meet Martins. Martins was not her age mate. She was 36, smooth, dark-skinned, always smelling fresh, and always in white. He drove a black Mercedes with tinted windows, and his name was written on the plate. The first time they met was on Instagram. He saw her poolside picture and messaged her, "You don't belong here. Let me show you what it means to be truly kept." 1 week later, she got a new iPhone. 2 weeks later, he helped her move into a mini flat off campus. The rent was paid in full for a year. He wasn't her boyfriend. He was her helper, her sponsor, her comfort. On their third date at the restaurant on the island, Martins looked at her across the table and smiled. "A woman like you shouldn't suffer, my dear. Look at your face. Look at your body. You're too soft to struggle." She smiled. His words suited her. Weeks passed. Life was sweet until one morning, Nkem woke up with her stomach turning. She brushed it off as nothing. But a week passed. 2 weeks. No period. She laughed it off at first. Maybe it's school stress. Then her friend Adora, her roommate from first year, noticed her mood. "Nkem, you dey okay? When last did you see your period?" Nkem laughed it off. "Abeg, free me, you too dey worry." But in her heart, fear was growing. They went together to a small pharmacy near campus. The nurse brought out a pregnancy test kit. Minutes later, the result was clear, positive. Adora gasped. Nkem stood still. No shaking and no crying. She was just quiet. "I'll handle it," she said flatly. That night, she called Martins. "Hello, baby," he answered casually. "I'm pregnant." There was a long pause, and then Martins said, "You know what to do. Don't let emotions confuse you. I'm not ready for this. You are smart, so fix it." Nkem's hand shook. "So that's all you have to say? I'll send you money tomorrow. Just make it go away." Martins ended the call. Nkem stared at her screen. Her chest felt tight. Adora held her hand later that evening. "Please don't do it. My cousin tried it last year and died. Nkem, I'm begging you, don't take this risk." But Nkem pulled her hand away. "That's why you're still suffering, Adora. Hostel life, small dreams. I'm not your level." She left Adora in the room, holding back tears. That night, Nkem slept, but her sleep was not peaceful. She found herself walking through a thick, quiet forest. In her arms, she held a small baby, crying and covered in cloths. Suddenly, a dark hand reached from the bush and snatched the baby away. She screamed and tried to chase, but her legs refused to move. She looked down. Her hands were covered in blood. She shouted, "Give me back my baby!" Then a deep voice echoed from above. What you throw away today will be the only thing you will ever cry for tomorrow. Inkim woke up sweating. It was 3:14 a.m. She drank water, paced the room and then whispered to herself, it was just a dream. Nothing will happen. The next morning, she booked a private appointment in Ikoyi. The doctor did a scan and sat down gently. You have a tilted womb. It's not dangerous, but abortion could affect your future chances. Please think well. Kim smiled faintly. Doctor, I'll be fine. Let's do it. The procedure room was cold, too cold. The nurse told her to lie down. After some minutes, it was done. The innocent child gone and she was free like a bird. Afterward, she sat down in the car, staring out the window. The world moved, cars passed, birds flew, but inside her, something had gone quiet. Martins never called again. She bled lightly for 3 weeks, told Adora it was just heavy flu. At night, she stared at the ceiling, her palm resting on her flat belly. I'll be fine, she whispered. I'll still have plenty children when I'm ready. But her voice didn't sound so sure. One evening, she looked into the mirror. Her makeup was perfect, wig laid and her lashes done, but her eyes were empty. God, I hope I didn't destroy my tomorrow, she muttered. She turned off the lights, lay down and crawled into a ball. That night, the silence in her womb was loud, and she knew deep down, what I just threw away may come back tomorrow, but not with joy. Nkem met Chief Ifeanyi Okocha at a fashion expo in Lekki 2 years after she graduated. She had only come to follow a friend who was modeling. But while adjusting her clothes and trying to get some pictures for her Instagram, she bumped into him. He smiled and held her steady. Are you alright? She looked up and saw a tall, clean-shaven man in white senator outfit, gold wristwatch that shone brightly against his dark skin. His voice was calm. His presence was heavy but not overbearing. There was something about him, rich but not loud, old money. Their conversation was short, but before he left, he handed her his card and said, if you ever want to talk about fashion or anything deeper, call me. That night, Nkem stared at the card like it held her future. It did. They began seeing each other. He took her to quiet restaurants where nobody shouted over music. They talked, really talked. He asked about her dreams, not her figure. He called her beautiful instead of hot. His name was Chief Ifeanyi Okocha, 40 years old, widowed with no children, and even one of the most respected real estate developers in Lagos. Every time he looked at her, he made her feel like the most important woman in the world. 6 months later, he proposed. The ring sparkled like hope. Nkem said yes through her tears. Upon all the warnings and holy advice from Adora and others, look at me now, I got the perfect man, she said to herself. The wedding was like something out of a Nollywood dream. Champagne flowed, the hall was decorated in cream and gold. Guests danced in lace and agbada. Blogs called it the wedding of the season. Nkem wore her crown with pride. Her first year of marriage was sweet like ripe mango. She traveled, she laughed, she posted soft life on Instagram with quotes like, marry your peace, not your pressure. Ifeanyi, her husband, bought her a new Range Rover, hired a personal chef and took her on surprise trips to Dubai, South Africa and the Maldives. On her birthday, he gifted her another Benz. Nkem believed she had finally outrun her past. No one needed to know it, so she buried it completely. But during the second year, something changed. It started small. Her mother came to visit one weekend and dropped a comment over breakfast. When I was your age, you were already working and calling me mama. You know children sweeten marriage, eh? Nkem smiled politely. Very soon, mama. Soon became a stone in her mouth. One by one, the pressure came. First from his sisters. We can't wait to carry our brother's child. Then from old family friends. Then from Ifeanyi himself. He didn't shout, he didn't accuse, but he began to grow quiet. At night, he would lie beside her, not holding her as tightly as before. During outings, he would glance at babies playing and say nothing. Nkim started going to the hospital again, silently and alone. Same answer, scar tissue, tilted womb, no implantation chance. A part of her womb had been damaged completely. She cried in hospital bathrooms, she cried in the car, but at home, she powdered her face and told her husband, "We're waiting on God." He nodded, but the silence between them grew heavier. Then she started searching for answers beyond medicine. She went to church after church, prophet after prophet. One pastor poured oil on her stomach and said, "The baby is coming next month." Nothing came. Another said she had a spiritual husband. She sowed a seed of 200,000 naira, still nothing. She fasted, prayed, cried at midnight, slept in church, but every month her period came like a quiet reminder of her mistake. One day, she returned from a revival program in Ibadan. As she stepped out of the car in her estate, two women chatting nearby lowered their voices, then raised them again as she passed. She dey wear lace every weekend, but her womb is as dry as harmattan. Na fine girl go finish her, all packaging, no pikin. Nkem walked past with her head high, but inside her room, she dropped to the floor like a broken dish. She cried until her voice cracked. Then she whispered, "God, I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. Please, just one. Give me one child." That same week, she was invited to a women in business seminar. She almost didn't go, but her husband encouraged her. There on the panel was Adora, her old roommate, glowing and looking peaceful. And beside her was a little girl, around 5, smart eyes, bright smile, proudly holding a small award plaque. They bumped into each other after the event. "Wow, Nkim, you look good." Adora smiled. "You too," Nkim replied. Adora pointed, "This is Grace, my first daughter. She just won a scholarship to the UK. I remember how scared I was when I kept her, but look at her now." Nkim smiled, but her lips trembled. She nodded and walked away before the tears came. That night, her husband returned from a gathering with his friends. They had spent the evening talking about their children, their daughters in boarding school, their sons playing football. Ifeanyi had said nothing. At home, he sat beside her in silence. Then he asked softly, "Nkim, is there something wrong with you you're not telling me?" She looked at him, the man who loved her, the man who gave her everything, and she shook her head. "No, nothing. Why? Are you suspecting me?" He said no, just curious. But something in his eyes dimmed. He was worried and full of questions. The next morning, his mother called him into the room. "Ify, you know I'm not getting younger. Our family name must continue. A man needs a child." "What are you saying, Mama?" "I'm saying you can marry another wife. Let her remain here, but bring in someone who can give you a child. Even Abraham had 2. "Mama, you know I can't do that. I love her." His mother looked at him for long and said, "Are you sure this girl didn't use charms on you? This is no longer my son, the Ify I know, Agunaya." But that night, Nkim saw him sitting on the balcony, staring into the dark. She went back into the room, knelt beside the bed, and buried her face in the pillow. "God, please, don't let him leave me. Please don't let my past destroy this future." She slept in tears that night. One day, after weeks of silence, Ifeanyi sat beside Nkim in their bedroom and said, "There's this specialist clinic my friend recommended. We'll go together." His voice was soft and calm, but there was a kind of finality in it. Nkim nodded with a smile, but her heart raced. She didn't want to go. She already knew what they would find, but saying no would raise more suspicion. They arrived at the fertility center, all glass and marble, air conditioning humming, everything smelled clean. Tests were done, blood was drawn and scans were performed. The nurses smiled at them and everyone was polite. But when the doctor walked in with the file, his face changed the room. He sat down, looked at them both, and then cleared his throat. Chief, madam, I won't waste your time. Based on the results, it appears there's a severe damage to madam's uterus, scarred tissue, likely from an old abortion or a complicated procedure. The room fell silent. Ifeanyi turned slowly to look at her. His eyes didn't blink. He turned and asked the doctor, "Please, sir, what are you talking about?" The doctor replied, "You can ask your wife." Nkem stared at the doctor, then at the wall, then at her hands. Her voice cracked. It was a long time ago, before I met you. I didn't know it would affect me like this." "So it's true?" Ifeanyi asked, not shouting, not whispering, just broken. She fell to her knees. "I was afraid to lose you," she said, tears soaking her gown. "I thought if I told you, you would leave me. I didn't want to lose the only good thing I ever had." The doctor stood up and stepped out quietly, but Ifeanyi remained seated, staring at the floor. "You should have told me. I asked you, I begged you, but you still kept secret for your selfish gain. You're a wicked woman." He stood up, picked his car keys and walked out of the office without another word. Nkem remained on the floor, sobbing, alone. She returned to an empty house. Her clothes were still there, his shoes by the door, but his car was gone. She sat on the cold tile in the living room, arms wrapped around her knees. The next morning, she packed a small bag and boarded a bus to Asaba. Her mother was shocked to see her. "Nkem, wetin happen? Where's your husband?" Nkem knelt. "Mama, it's a long story. I beg you, come to Lagos, talk to him. Maybe he will listen to you. I've made a mistake, a big one." The next day, her mother followed her back to Lagos. She wore her best gown and carried a bag of gifts. They stood at Ifeanyi's gate. The security man hesitated, then called inside. Ifeanyi came out, neat, serious, but colder than before. "Mama, good afternoon," he greeted respectfully. Her mother went straight to the ground on her knees. "My son, I beg you, please forgive my daughter. Whatever she did, she's still your wife. Don't throw her away." Ifeanyi's face was stiff. "Mama, I respect you, but this is between your daughter and I." He turned to Nkem and said, "You lied to me. You took my love and wrapped it around silence. You carried a grave secret into my house and smiled like it wasn't there." He shook his head painfully. "You're a wicked woman. I don't want to see you anywhere near my gate again. Pack your things and get out." Her legs trembled. Her mother's hands shook. That night, she packed quietly, no noise and no help. She carried her suitcase herself. No one came to watch, no one came to stop her. She returned to Asaba with her mother, bags by her feet. Her father didn't come out of the house. Her mother sat her down and shook her head. "So this is what you used my sweat for? After everything we did, after every wrapper I sold, every loan your father took, you used your womb for sacrifice and now you've returned to drag our name into the mud." Nkem knelt down and begged, "Mama, please, I have no one else." Her father shouted from inside the house, "Let her go. I don't want disgrace in my compound." She cried all night outside. The door was locked. The lights were off. Nkem sold her wedding rings, her gold chains, her designer shoes. With the little money she got, she rented a one-room apartment at the edge of town. The paint peeled, the roof leaked, but it was a roof. She bought a small deep frying pan and a bag of beans flour. People talked. Some pitied her, while some mocked her. But every day, she got up, fried and prayed. One evening after a long day, she sat on the floor of her tiny room. It was raining and her body was shaking. She picked up a bottle of bleach, held it and stared at it for long. "I have nothing left," she whispered. Then she heard a voice outside, calm and gentle. "It's never too late to repent." She dropped the bottle and ran outside, but no one was there, only the sound of rain and wind brushing leaves. She fell to her knees in the mud. "God, if that is you, please, I'm ready." The next morning she went to church. She stood at the back, her clothes soaked with the smell of frying oil. When the altar call came, she walked to the front slowly. The pastor opened the Bible and read, "If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creature. All things are passed away. Behold, all things have become new." She wept from the bottom of her heart. 3 months later, she adopted a baby girl from the orphanage home. She named her Obiageli, the one born into wealth. Not material wealth, but peace, redemption, a second chance. Life with Obiageli was not easy, but it was filled with peace Kim had never known before. Each day, she woke up early to fry akara on the roadside. People came from different parts of town just to buy from her, not because of the taste, but because of how she treated them, with quiet dignity, patience and honesty. She tied Obiageli's hair every morning before school, packed her lunch and walked her halfway to the dusty road. The little girl would look up and say, "I love you, mommy," and Nkem's chest would tighten with a strange mix of pain and joy. Though the room was small and the nights were quiet, Obiageli filled it with laughter. Her presence softened the sharp edges of Nkem's past. Years passed, and Nkem became known in the neighborhood, not for what she once was, but for who she had become: strong, prayerful and motherly. Young girls came to her for advice. Some called her Auntie Nkem the Wise. One day, while selling at her stall, a woman she barely recognized walked up to her. "Are you Nkem Delim Okoro?" she asked. Nkem blinked. "Yes, ma." The woman smiled. "I knew it. We were in secondary school together. My name is Blessing." They talked for a while. Blessing was now part of an NGO for women's development. She was touched by how Nkem had turned her life around and invited her to speak to teenage girls about choices and second chances. Nkem agreed, and that day changed everything. Her story spread. More people came to her akara store. Some asked for food, others asked for prayers. One woman gave her a brand new deep freezer. A church sister helped her print flyers. Others started coming from offices and schools. Through it all, Obiageli stood beside her, learning and watching. At age 10, the girl spoke with so much wisdom beyond her age. She won essay competitions, sang solos in church, helped older women cross the road. Then one day, her school called Inkim. "Your daughter has won a national competition," the principal said. "She has been offered full scholarship abroad." Nkem dropped on her knees and cried tears of joy. She hugged Obiageli so tightly and whispered, "You are my gift, my second chance, my answered prayers." Obiageli left the country at 12. Nkem missed her every day but wrote to her weekly. They video called every weekend, and every time she saw her child smile on the screen, something inside her healed a little more. Years passed. Obiageli returned at 18, elegant, full of grace. She held her mother's hand and said, "Mama, I want to take care of you now." She got a job with an international organization, and in her first year, she bought Nkem a small bungalow, painted well with pink flowers by the fence. Nkem stood outside the gate on a moving day and cried. "I didn't bet her," she told her neighbor, "but she was born for me." That same year, something unexpected happened. A widower named Brother Joseph joined her church. He was quiet, respectful, and deeply rooted in the Word of God. He had 2 teenage children, a boy and a girl, both polite and well-behaved. He began to talk to Nkem after services, not as a flirt, but as a man who saw value in her heart. One Sunday evening, after choir rehearsals, he walked up to her and said, "Sister Nkem, I've prayed about this. I know your story and I still want to work with you, if you will allow me. I'm not looking for perfection, just peace." Nkem sat him down and told him everything. "I cannot give you children," she said, her eyes brimming with tears. "My womb is not what it used to be. I don't want to deceive you." Brother Joseph held her hand and smiled. "I already have children. What I want is companionship, honesty, faith, and you have all 3. They got married quietly 2 months later. It wasn't loud, but it was holy. Their union was built on truth, forgiveness, and grace. At church one Sunday, Inkim stood before the congregation and shared her full testimony for the first time. She held her Bible and said, "I once threw away what I thought was a mistake. I lost everything. I was mocked, rejected, and ashamed. But God gave me a second chance, in the form of a child I didn't carry in my own womb, and a man who looked beyond my past." She opened her Bible and read aloud, "If any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. All things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." The church was silent after her testimony. Tears flowed. Even her old landlord, the one who once mocked her when she couldn't pay rent, stood up and clapped. One morning, as she walked through the same estate where women used to whisper behind her, two women now approached her with their daughters. "Auntie Inkim, please talk to my daughter. She's stubborn and doesn't listen to advice." Inkim smiled. She held the girl's hand gently and said, "Come, let me tell you a story." And so it began, not just a new chapter for Inkim, but a new assignment. She was no longer the woman marked by shame. She was a woman redeemed by grace. Through God, she found her voice again. The moral lesson of this story reminds us that one decision could actually scar us for life. Inkim made one decision in school to end a pregnancy, thinking it would secure her future, but that single choice silently followed her for years, ruining her marriage, stealing her peace, and nearly costing her life. Many young women believe today's mistake can be buried, but some mistakes grow roots in silence. Inkim learned too late that what you throw away in secret may become what you cry for in public. Yet, even in her lowest moment, grace found her. The child she didn't carry became the one who carried her back into joy, and the love she thought she would never deserve came from a man who valued her truth more than her past. This story teaches us that pain can teach, loss can humble, but God can still restore. Never let shame keep you from seeking the face of God, and never think your story is over. Sometimes, the end of your plans is the beginning of the plan of God.